The story begins with soldiers chasing down a desperate prisoner. Soon they capture him and force him to kneel on the ground. The captain pulls out his gun and places it firmly against the prisoner's head. Just as he is about to pull the trigger, he suddenly changes his mind. Dragging the man across the dirt, the soldiers bring him to their camp. There he is presented before the ruthless Japanese commander Ito, who shows no mercy and orders his men to behead the prisoner on the spot. James, the prisoner, is then taken to a desolate location outside the camp. Captain Hirano commands him to kneel once again. Without hesitation, Hirano unsheathes his sword and carefully positions it against James's neck, testing the perfect angle for a clean strike. But at the last second, as the sword rises high in the air, James dodges back, causing the lethal swing to miss. The guards rush in to finish him, but James fights back ferociously. Knowing the Japanese army would never let this go, James flees into the jungle, but they track him down quickly. In the chaos, he falls into one of their deadly traps and loses his knife, leaving him unable to cut himself free. Captured again, James is dragged back to camp. Commander Ito, enraged, demands to know why this man is still alive. When he learns that James not only escaped but also killed his soldiers and Hirano, Ito explodes with fury. Snatching the army badge from James's uniform, Ito declares that Hirano was like a brother to him, and killing him was James's biggest mistake. He spits venom at James, saying, "Celebrate your survival tonight, because tomorrow you will die a dog's death." Inside the camp, dozens of captives are already trapped, tortured, and broken. Many have died under the relentless cruelty of the Japanese soldiers. At night, prisoners whisper to James about their rules of survival, warning him that here discipline is everything. James listens, but doubts he will even survive until morning, as he has already been marked for death. The following day, the prisoners are dragged into an arena-like ring. Commander Ito sits back on a chair as though preparing for a show. 3 captives are accused of hiding food, and Ito orders them to fight. From the shadows emerges their executioner, a brutal fighter known as the Merchant of Death. Against him, the 3 men stand no chance. One after another, he destroys them with devastating blows, leaving them broken and bleeding in the dirt. Now it is James's turn. Ito coldly announces that this battle will not end until one man dies. The fighter charges, confident of an easy victory, but he underestimates James. With just one crushing punch, James knocks him out cold. Then, in a shocking and brutal moment, James smashes the fighter's skull, killing him instantly. The crowd is stunned. The undefeatable warrior, their champion, is dead at the hands of a prisoner. Even Ito himself storms off in rage, unable to accept what he has just witnessed. But this was only the beginning. The very next day, James is thrown into an even deadlier challenge. This time, multiple fighters are sent into the ring against him all at once. The match is completely unfair, designed to guarantee James's death. Yet, with unbelievable strength and skill, James fights them all. He breaks bones, crushes faces, and even strangles one opponent to death while the others watch in horror. For the first time, the Japanese realize they are dealing with someone far more dangerous than they ever imagined. He spares the man at the last second, and the crowd recoils in disbelief, the commander tasting humiliation once more. James, by refusing to finish the killer, becomes a spark, breathing courage into the other prisoners, a dangerous contagion for the camp. Colin, stunned and angry, asks why James did not kill him, and James answers simply that he only followed his commander's orders, that even soldiers do not wish to deal when the choice is taken from them. Ito punishes the defeated fighters by shooting them in front of everyone, proving he shows no mercy even to his own. Gabriel warns that a week from now they will be marched to another camp, supposedly better than this hell, but Colin knows how these men operate. Half of the prisoners never survive the march. Those who cannot keep pace are left to die on the road. The truth chills the men, their fate a countdown they can hear under every footstep. James says they need a radio, a lifeline to reach the coast where friendly forces may be stationed. The radio sits near a watchtower, guarded and out of reach. The next day they stage a diversion, a staged fight that pulls guards away in force. James uses the chaos and climbs the tower, and with stealth and speed, he takes the radio. The guards fire into the air to restore order, but James has already done his work. A nurse spots him as he slips away. James hushes her silently, but a guard finds her and assaults her for resisting. He slaps her so hard she falls, and she is lucky James was not seen, because he could not intervene without blowing the entire plan. James hides the radio, and the prisoners smuggle it into their cell. Fear rules them, because they can only listen on that machine. They cannot transmit without being detected. If command learns a radio is missing, the torture will be unending until the device is found. James calms them, saying, "Do not be afraid. They have many radios. One missing will go unnoticed, and they plan to use that blind spot." The next day, Ito lines the prisoners up and accuses some of moving through forbidden zones. He fingers Colon, but Colon pushes back, and another prisoner is dragged out and forced to name accomplices under the promise of his life. He gives names, and Ito breaks his promise and has the man killed anyway, showing that trust means nothing in this place. That night, James questions the prisoner who named the others, probing for for a route out. The man fears betrayal and stays silent at first. Then under pressure, he reveals a blind spot in the perimeter, a narrow patch out of the guard's sight where escape might be possible. That very night, James slips out with the stolen radio, threading through dense jungle until he feels he is far enough. He switches the radio on and catches a transmission, voices speaking in Navajo over a shortwave. A soldier later inspects the cell and finds only empty sacks where the prisoner slept. He does not raise an alarm. The silence is inexplicable, almost cinematic, giving James time to listen, then slip back into camp as if nothing happened. The three conspirators meet again, and James reveals what he heard. He knows the Americans are nearby. He only did not understand the content. He proposes a desperate plan. He has seen a glider, a craft without an engine but fitted with a hook. If a pilot could fly low enough and another plane could snag the glider, they might tow the glider and lift the prisoners to safety. Colin doubts it, noting the glider has no motor and cannot be flown alone. Gabriel warns the plan is dangerous, that if the hook fails, they will die trying to make a connection. Before they can finalize the scheme, a guard summons James to Ito once more. This time, the prisoner is treated with an odd politeness. A chair offered. Ito asks what James knows about the Navajo language, and James says he knows nothing. Ito points out that it is an Indian language, and if James does not know, then surely his American friends will. Ito demands that James find someone who can decode the transmissions. James replies that even if someone knew, why would they betray information to the Japanese? Perito coldly reminds them that fear makes people do anything to survive, and if no one speaks, none of them will see their families again. Survive this camp, and you die on the march, he warns. At the next camp, James shows no fear of threats, and the guards drag him away. Ito says he could have James killed immediately, but for now his priorities differ. The captain argues that the obvious solution is to kill him at once. Then Ito shouts that they are under threat, that Americans and British are close and could attack at any moment. The next day, they break James, they beat him with the batons until his body is spent. They drain him of all strength. The torture does not stop there. They force him to fight while he is crippled and weakened. Underestimate him at your peril, because when they unbind his hands, James attacks like a wounded lion. He shows no mercy. He mauls his opponents so brutally that few can stand. The captain calls his men cowards for failing against a single prisoner. Perito, ashamed, refuses to give the kill order, then in blind rage shoots some prisoners and returns to his tent. James collapses from his injuries, and when he wakes, he is in a Japanese medical camp. They have treated him carefully, appointing a nurse to watch over him. He recognizes the nurse. Her name is Thalesa. She is also a former prisoner. Thalesa tells him Ito has lost sleep. He fears an attack that will leave none of them alive. At night, Ito comes to see James. He calls him a good fighter. He says James has many more fights to endure, and he tells him to rest because tomorrow he will die. James snaps back that Ito has repeated that line again and again since he arrived. He asks what purpose this ritual serves. If killing is inevitable, then why prolong the suffering? If they keep fighting like this, one day everyone will die, and then Ito will be left alone. Who will he fight then? Ito says nothing and walks away. James returns to his comrades. They celebrate that he is alive. One prisoner reports that American planes have flown over the camp while he was in the medical tent, confirming that friendly forces are nearby. The only thing left is to contact them, but transmitting risks immediate discovery. That night, James and Gabriel slip out, but they are spotted after only a short distance. James decides against risking another life to prove a point. They retreat to the cell. Soon after, the guards rush in to inspect, and they find everyone in place, exactly where they should be. The very next day, Ito gathers all the prisoners once again. His voice cuts through the air as he announces that during the night, some men broke out of their barracks and attacked the guards. He says this was not the work of one man and demands that those responsible step forward. James watches as Colin, his ally, is brutally tortured. Unable to hold back, James declares that they have the wrong man. He admits openly that he was the one who killed the guards. Ito smirks, pleased that James confessed, but then he reveals a cruel twist. He drags another prisoner forward and orders James to kill him, saying that if James follows his command, Colin's life will be spared. James refuses to kill an unarmed, defenseless man, and Ito executes the prisoner right in front of him. Because James disobeyed, they prepare to do the same to Colin. But before they can, Colin suddenly lashes out, attacking with a ferocity that silences the entire camp, beating him down and locking him back in his cell. That night, James confronts Ito, demanding Colin's release. But Ito coldly states that breaking the rules means only one punishment, and that punishment is death. James challenges him, calling him a coward, telling him to fight face to face instead of hiding behind orders and soldiers. Ito, ever cunning, believes you should never enter a fight you cannot win and walks away. James spits on his cowardice, knowing the time to act has finally come. The prisoners decide that their plan must go forward that very night. They will send a signal over the stolen radio. James explains that they will slip in a few words in the Navajo language, words that will confuse the Japanese long enough to buy them precious time. By the time their captors realize the words are meaningless, it will already be be too late. Under the cover of darkness, James and Gabriel sneak out again. They pull out the radio and begin transmitting. By sheer luck, their frequency matches with the American forces nearby. A response crackles through the static. Gabriel calls out clear words. Glider, glider, no motor, east 27. The reply comes instantly. Copy that. To confuse Japanese listeners, Gabriel mixes in random nonsense phrases, but James reassures him that the Americans will understand. They know this signal was sent under impossible conditions, and they will decode it correctly. The two men return to camp, but to their horror, the cell is empty. Before they can react, guards swarm in and beat them unconscious. When James wakes, the world has already changed. Explosions shake the ground as American bombers rain fire on the Japanese camp. Chaos consumes everything. The Japanese, desperate and panicked, begin killing prisoners before abandoning the camp. Thalesa rushes to James, untying his hands. She explains that after his capture, the bombing began, and Ito has gone mad, killing anyone in his path. As James stumbles outside, he sees a nightmare. The camp is burning. James and his allies run toward the tower, but enemy soldiers block their way. Thalesa steps forward, telling James to keep moving. She and another prisoner distract the guards by faking stomach pain. When one guard approaches, they strike with hidden knives, stabbing him again and again. Meanwhile, James makes it to the tower. There he sees a horrifying sight. The guards are executing prisoners one by one, lining them up for slaughter. James knows who is next in line, his friends. In that instant, his mission changes. He abandons everything else, determined that no matter what, he will save them first. As the Japanese soldiers raised their weapons to fire, James unleashed a storm of bullets, turning the tide in an instant. The prisoners, inspired by his courage, joined the fight, attacking their captors with everything they had. Meanwhile, Colin faced a Japanese captain in brutal hand-to-hand combat. The clash was fierce, neither giving an inch. Just as Colin was about to fall, a shot rang out from behind, and the attacker fell lifeless. In the case, James stormed Ito's command camp. Ito, calm and composed, awaited him like a predator, a twisted smile on his face. James declared that there was nowhere left for Ito to run. Ito laughed, tossing a sword in James's direction, daring him to fight. The battle erupted, brutal and fast. Ito could not withstand James's raw strength. When the sword slipped from his hand, he drew a gun, only for James to throw him to the ground and pummel him mercilessly. James was about to deliver the killing blow when Gabriel intervened, urging him to flee. Their extraction plane was on its way. The Japanese captain watched them escape, powerless, his face etched with shame and defeat. Even if he had killed James, it would not have erased the truth. He was a coward. James and the remaining prisoners reached the glider, securing themselves with ropes and a reinforced hook. They climbed in, tense and silent. Above, an American fighter plane hovered, and its pilot skillfully lowered the hook to snag the glider. But the hook caught perfectly, and the plane lifted them into the sky, finally out of the camp. Though some were not as lucky, James made a silent promise to himself. He would return one day and rescue those left behind. 8 years later, after the end of World War II, James returns to Japan. He comes to settle unfinished business with Ito, only to find Ito gone. Instead, he encounters Ito's son, now a teacher, who, upon recognizing James as the man who ruined his father's life, challenges him to a fight in front of his students. James faces them alone, taking down every opponent with precision and ease. The students watch in disbelief as he dispatches each fighter effortlessly. Eventually, they surrender. The young man, still in awe, asks why James has come. James learns that Ito had died a year earlier, but had passed on all knowledge of James to his son. Without a word, James prepares to leave, but the son requests a single sparring match to test the truth of his father's stories. The fight is intense, but James anticipates every move. With a single calculated strike, he defeats the young man. Yet instead of delivering a fatal blow, James extends a hand in mercy, ending the fight with honor. The son reveals the treasured badge Ito had kept safe all those years. It was James's own badge, taken during the war. With reverence, he returns it to James, acknowledging the promise Ito had unwittingly made. They bow to each other in mutual respect, and James walks away, badge in hand, the weight of years lifted.